All right, recording is started, and this is the March 7th, 2023 Rook Community Meeting. Let's jump on into milestone checkup here with 1.10. Looks like since the last community meeting, which is 21st, we did have a patch release 1.10.12, which kind of coincided with the bigger 1.11 release. So I doubt, we'll pull up the release notes real quick, but I bet that it's more important to talk about what was in 1.11 instead. But anything important to call out here that was specific to 1.10.12 patch release?
Not particularly. I think there were a couple of fixes that people were looking forward to having. So just put the release out there, and 1.10 is pretty stable these days. Nothing real urgent to talk about, I think.
Sounds good. And then we don't have specific plans for 1.10.13, another patch release there. We're suggesting doing it later in a couple weeks from now, because there's not a ton of things going on there. So maybe like a normal cadence, a normal slowed down cadence for 1.10 patching.
Yeah, I put the 21st in there just tentatively, maybe even the following week, just if nothing urgent comes up, right, move it out to the 28th.
Yep, and we can keep an eye on that for anything that gets reported, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's move on then to 1.11. Let's take a quick look at the release notes first for the 1.11.0 release, as that was the big thing that's happened since the last community meeting. So go ahead, Travis, and get us updated on the big highlights for 1.11.
Yep, sounds good. Let's see. I feel like it was a great release. It's been, I think, amazingly, was it 6 months? So end of August was our 1.10 release. I just can't believe it's been that long already since the last release. So a lot of good things in here, and the release notes don't capture all the great work everybody's done. But just a few really small breaking changes, just as far as we up the minimum version of Kubernetes. So we're supporting the last 6 that are out there from 1.21 and newer. There's a new CSI driver, so we upped the min version of that. Removed the machine disruption budgets, which nobody was using. Golang versions updated. So really housekeeping for all those things. And then feature-wise, just I don't know if you want to talk through all those, but happy to have all these features out there as far as enabling the Ceph exporter, doing more with Messenger 2 and allowing people to enable that by default, even if they don't have encryption on the wire enabled. Mirroring data across clusters with overlapping networks is an important one for people mirroring when they're not using host networking. The last point there, Ceph manager standby using the readiness probe. We'll talk more about that with an issue we need to fix in the patch release, but probably we'll revert that one actually. That's the plan. And but overall, great release. Thank everyone for contributions.
Travis, did you say that there is more to talk about here? Is that on the agenda, or that's like an async follow-up for this?
Yeah, when we look at the board for blocking issues for the .1 release.
Okay. Yeah. So let's go ahead and move on to that now then. So let's bring up the board.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we did have a few issues in the release that a couple of them have been fixed already, but just to talk through them and what happened. So the exporter, the new Ceph exporter daemon is enabled now if you have the Prometheus monitoring enabled. Then we'll start this exporter daemon on each node. Well, the node is currently crashing if it's on a node where there's no OSD. That's what it looks like for the repro. So still, this is an open one. Still don't have an exact or no PR open yet for the fix, but I'm hoping today to go ahead and find a small fix, at least, even if it's disabling the thing, so we can get the 1.1 release to be a stable build. That's my goal. I'd rather have it not enabled, the whole exporter disabled, than have a crashing exporter daemon. So,
and Travis, in the comments here, I saw maybe as you mentioned something about large CRDs. Is that like a red herring, tangential sort of thing, or is that related here?
Yeah, tangential.
Okay.
And yeah, Blaine can speak more to that one, but I think we're okay with that one. If you just use kubectl replace, it gets past that issue. But yeah,
Right. Yeah.
our
Yeah,
CRDs
and
are getting
that's
too big. So
yeah. This is I think particularly this was the NFS CRD, which I suspect has to do with the uh, we allow users to specify volume sources for some of the config files so that they can pick whether they want like a host mount volume or a secret or a config map or wherever else their config might be stored, and then have that applied into the container. But those volume sources can be pretty long, and so if you do apply, the last applied configuration is set on an annotation on the resource, and that annotation has a limited size, even if the resource itself doesn't. So that's what was causing the issue, and replace is just what's needed to fix that. And then there's also not that huge annotation.
yep, that's all
All
for
right.
that issue.
Yeah, thanks for that update on that that detail as well, Blaine.
Mhm.
All right. Okay, so then it sounds like Travis, there's a few things to track down there, or potentially make the decision to disable the whole exporter. But it looks like there's a good lead there on why it's crashing in terms like if it lands on a node that doesn't have an OSD present. So that sounds like something to follow up on to see if we can get that fixed in quickly enough if that is the root cause.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, then the next issue there is what I was referring to in the release notes that we have an issue with. So in the release 1.11, we changed the manager so that with the active standby configuration, we had been managing that with a sidecar that's running with the manager, and then the sidecar would update the services as when the active manager changes. But we changed that to use a readiness probe, which was working really smoothly from Rook's perspective, because the readiness probe pretty quickly detects if a Ceph manager changes from active to standby or vice versa. So we merged that, got it into the release, but then it turns out there's a couple of external components, which like a Prometheus alert that was failing and some other deployment tools, which didn't like the fact that any pod is in a not ready state, because basically it means the standby manager is always not ready. It always fails its readiness probe. And deployment tools say, hey, that's a failed state. They don't like that. So they think installs fail and things like that. So that since it's external to us, I don't think there's anything we can really do to change that behavior. So the plan is today, Red One is the one who implemented that. He opened a PR to revert all the related fixes for that feature. We'll just revert back to the sidecar, and then we've been discussing another approach to improve the sidecar implementation. And he's got a PR open for that, but we want to do some more testing and verification of the approach before we merge it. So yeah, we'll just revert it and then get the .1 release stable again from that perspective.
Yeah, that sounds good, Travis. I think it's good, yeah, that we've identified these as, like they're in the blocking release column. They are the things that we want to address with the first patch. We're on top of both of them, it sounds like, and the plan here is to do something, to not sit on them and to address them fairly quickly. Does this still feel accurate that, Travis, you're saying that that today for a patch release is reasonable still?
Yeah, well, the manager standby, that's ready for merge. I just want to do some validation on that revert. And then the other exporter issue, that may be a stretch to get the release. And I want to think about, well, do we still release without it, or do we delay till tomorrow maybe to get that fixed too? So I'll see how that fix goes today and keep the chat updated.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because I think
Alright.
there's a couple other fixes in the release, maybe just to talk to those. I think we need to get a release out soon for those. So host networking clusters are effectively blocked right now. Well, a couple of people are using an interim release build with that fix in it, because host network OSDs were declaring ports that we didn't intend to declare. And so the ports are conflicting. But yeah, so that issue, it's fixed. So we just want to get that fix out there. And then also there was a couple of Prometheus alerts firing that we just disabled since they don't seem to work well in the Rook clusters. We pulled the Ceph monitoring the latest alerts from the Ceph repo. And yeah, a year ago we disabled them after they didn't work well. And so we just needed to re-disable them after we pulled again. Yeah. So that's the motivation to get there.
And then any other issues in the done column then to call out?
No, those are the main ones.
All right.
And
so it sounds like we've got a good handle on the first patch release for 1.11. Anything else that folks want to bring up for 1.11 in general? And perhaps next community meeting sometime in the near future we'll start talking about 1.12, but supporting 1.11 after it was just released here is the primary focus right now.
Exactly.
All right. And speaking of 1.11 release, let's go ahead and move to the community topic section and do a little retrospective here. Looks like Travis, you've got some ideas already to talk about.
Yeah. So we got everything out, and I don't think it was a rough release. Just wanted to talk about a couple of things that came up. So the blog image, I always forget to ask Matt for it soon enough, and then it's always a fire drill, and it's terrible that it ends up being that every time, because I don't remember to do things in advance that I only do every few months. So anyway, since Matt didn't have a chance to get an image, we just went ahead with the blog without an image. And so it's just a boring blog without an image. Yesterday he emailed and said, "Oh, do we still need this?" And I said, "Yes, we'd still love to have it. I'd still love to add an image to the blog." But then so I don't know if he's planning on it or what his schedule's like, but
I pinged him over the weekend to see if he had followed up with you on it, and then I think that's what prompted him to go ahead and follow up yesterday. So I think that he should. I'll make sure that give him a little nudge right now to remind him that it's still a good thing to do.
Yeah, cool. And then for future, I can follow up with him too to say, what's the best way to work with this? Should we just ask, is it more efficient for him to say, hey, I'll just create 3 for the next 3 releases and we'll just save them, right? So I don't have to ask him every few months, or just plan on giving him a week or 2 notice and then that's fine. Or I just want to know what works best for
maybe one thing that could be useful is having a tracking issue for it and have it on the board so that like as the release is winding down, we're kind of moving things to the right side of the board, that tracking issue will still be there, and that'll kind of give us a bit of a heads up before the release goes out, before it's time for the release to go. That could be useful.
We could even assign it to Matt, so he just sees the email for it or whatever.
A specific nudge would also be required, I think.
And that too.
he's a designer, not a developer. He doesn't live in GitHub.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll hopefully, I need to put it in the notes of things to do for the release sooner. Yeah.
All right.
So and then we were about to release on the Thursday, and then most of us had Friday off for our team, and we said, oh, let's wait till Monday just so we're not out the day after the release in case things come up. So we delayed till Monday, and and that was all good. And so I just wanted to comment on that. Not that it's an issue, just that that's why it was delayed a couple extra days.
And I think that's even reinforced further the value of doing that when we have like the couple of issues or potential regressions, whatever, that we're aiming to get into 1.11.1 patch release. It's good that we have folks and hands on deck and be able to field those and investigate into them and come up with solutions, et cetera, right after the release. So that was proven to be the right call here, I think. Then
Yeah, I think it was good.
Yep.
And overall there, I think I would just put in a plug also for asking all maintainers to kind of be on deck for a few days after the release in case things come up. I think this time even there were a couple people out on PTO or sick or something. It just felt like, where is everybody? We need more hands on deck type of thing, just in general. So yeah, I know we're all busy and have things, so I'll just leave it at that, but all hands on deck is helpful after release. And then the last point I had there is that this issue we had that blocked clusters with host networking enabled, we haven't ever had a host networking enabled CI test. And so I opened an issue there to say, hey, we really need this test so that we don't have that common configuration blocked with the release. So Santosh is going to work on that here soon. And I don't think it'll be too difficult of a test. Unless I'm forgetting if we tried that in the past and it didn't work with the GitHub Actions for some reason, but I don't see why I wouldn't.
Could be possible.
Yeah.
Cool.
We'll see it.
All right. Any other thoughts that folks wanted to share in terms of their experience or retrospective look back at the 1.11 release?
I guess I have, well, the thought that I have is the reminder recently that there are the large or big GitHub runners that we haven't really had a lot of time to look into that support nested virtualization. If we can't create a host networking test easily with our current runners, it could be that that's a good opportunity for us to set up a like a Minikube in an actual VM. It would probably be KVM, I would assume. And I would hope that that cluster would be pretty easy to do host networking on. And we could potentially also give it 3-4 disks that I think would exercise the failure that we were, or at least one of the failures we were seeing. And then Alexander made the note that we could have pre-cooked blog images. I wonder if that might not actually be a really good idea. And we could, yeah, I mean, I'm not a designer, but if it's something where we have a pre-cooked image and we can just put some text over it in a way that is kind of guided or obvious for us, then that might be kind of helpful. And then if we could have, I don't know, 5 of those images or something, we could just recycle.
I see. So we would just change the text for the version. Is that what we're, Alexander, is that what you mean?
To be honest, I kind of just brought it up as a joke. Mainly to
Okay,
have
so maybe not.
prepared images, but I don't know, having at least one motive or something where we in the worst case can just, yeah, I don't know, explain anything, put some text over it. Seems tempting if we should forget it again, or so that we can just, okay, emergency backup, we take it, put the text or update the text in some way. But I think depending on if it's a motive with text, it might be a bit problematic of matching the font or matching the shading then of the colors and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Right.
I also had the thought that the whatever font file that's used might also be a good thing to have.
or at
I
least
mean-
knowing what it is. Maybe to jump,
Yeah.
at least that we have it written down. Like we had the same thing for Kura going on also, where it's like, so what font did we use again? Wait, what color was the prompt? Oh, and we just wrote everything down then, and it's, I think if maybe you can just ask him then for the information like that, and like add it to the README of the repository. Is it the media or the artwork one? I think it's called artwork for Rook. That makes sense, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, but Matt's handiwork, it's so much better than anything we could do. It's like, okay, if we just give Matt notice, can he give us a good one, right? But if he can't, or we forget, what do we do? So, what's the backup plan? It's good to have for sure.
Yeah, definitely. With enough time, Matt's skills do come into, are very useful, let's say. Okay, cool. These are all great ideas, guys. So then, Travis, do you want to go ahead and move on to KubeCon Amsterdam, or is that actively soliciting ideas for the talk still?
Yeah, well, actually, just finally yesterday, I posted in Slack to say, hey, any ideas? What do you want to hear about in the talk? I haven't seen any responses yet. So if anybody has ideas, definitely looking for. We'll do the standard talk with background or overview, and then talk about the latest release features and things like that. Talk about the roadmap some. So if there's anything else people want to see, curious to hear ideas. So yeah, otherwise, I have my trip scheduled. I got my flights and everything for KubeCon and Cephalocon. They're back to back, so I'll be there for both. To your question, Anthony. So yep, hope to see you there. And yeah, Blaine, you'll be there for KubeCon is the plan. Other people who will be there. Yeah, Alexander, you'll be there for both.
Yeah, I should be there. I don't know if you saw the message, but we're still figuring things out at the moment for DPK.
Right.
Yeah, hoping to have a yes, all good soon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it'll be good to see everybody there. And if anybody has ideas for what you want to hear, let me know.
Sweet, sounds good. Definitely looking forward to Amsterdam with everybody there. Should be great. All right, so that's everything that was on the agenda then. So we'll do an open call here for any other agenda items before we adjourn. All right, sounds good. All right, so once again, thanks everybody for the efforts on getting the 1.11 release out and following up on getting the first patch out as well, and continuing to maintain and support that release. So yeah, great to see everybody today.
Yep, thanks.
Yeah.
Bye everybody.
See you later.
Yeah.
Bye.